Srila Prabhupada ki Patit Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki Srila Prabhupada Disappearance the Festival Maha Utsav ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Srila Prabhu. So it's recommended we have a mask. If you don't have it, we have a temple. So there is some out there. So the next program. So we're going to open this place. We're going to offer the mobile from. We're going to put the curtains and then some tables. So we don't want to. Take mats on, take the mats on and put it aside.
You don't have extra stand?
Then if you all can sit inside here, they can take Mataji. So she's not
Keep it on the chair.
we're also waiting. Edward said Prabhupada is running late. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So I just want to quickly say the program, and then I'll pass the mic to Kamini. So it's 11:30. So from 11:30 to 12:30 is going to be a topic about Srila Prabhupada, and then Mataji, she's the direct disciple of the Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder of Srila ISKCON movement, and he is a visionary, he is a pure devotee, and then it's 125th anniversary. So we're also offering, some devotees are working tirelessly in the kitchen, so they're going to offer 125 plus offerings today.
Hari
And then when Mataji is done, so it's also open for other devotees. You can also express your gratitude. The reason we're all here is because of him. So we can at least show gratitude in our own words. We'll keep that limit maybe a couple of minutes, or a few minutes. If you want to say more, let us know. There's not many people today, but we'll be coming up as we move forward. So without any further, I'll pass the mic to Kamini. Let's give a big round of applause.
I need some help. You have to sit right here with me. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Tule Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachane Nivishesha Shunyavari Paskapyate Satani Oman Gyantamirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakchu Amilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. It is said that the appearance and disappearance of the Acharya, spiritual master, is non-different. I kind of beg to differ a little bit, even though I don't say that it's not the same, but it's not the same in my heart, I should say, because the disappearance is a little more painful for me. I'll try to share, but it's a little difficult, because on this day in 1977, I was in the temple in Cleveland, Ohio, in East Cleveland, 15720 Euclid Avenue. It appeared to be just a regular, normal day, you know. It was morning program had just ended, and we were taking breakfast prasad together. And during breakfast prasad, we would all sit together and, you know, discuss spiritual topics. And the doorbell rang. And because I was like the housekeeper, I ran down to answer the door. And it was the mailman. And he had a box about this high. And it was about like this wide. And so I had to go back upstairs because it was kind of awkward. I couldn't carry the box. So I asked if some of the men could come down, at least two could come down, and we had a box. Then they needed to bring it in. And so they did. They brought it upstairs. And they began to open it because we didn't know what it was. And so my husband at that time, the box was packed with the packing materials and started throwing it all out, And inside the box was a murti of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Now back then, there weren't murtis in the temple, so it was, thank you. It was quite a wonderful gift and a shock at the same time. And so we took Srila Prabhupada out of the box and we placed him on the temple president's desk. And the devotees were just so happy because we have Srila Prabhupada has come to our temple to sit on his Vyasasan, which I had the great fortune of recovering at that time. So after a few moments, the phone rang. And it was the devotees in Nirvandavan. And they said, Srila Prabhupada just left. So imagine being so happy. And then you get this devastating news that Srila Prabhupada has come, and now he has departed from our material vision, of course. So now everyone was just crying and crying. And some devotees had already gone out on Sankirtan. So now we have to have a celebration. Nobody's in the mood of celebrating at a time like that. And so we had to go find all the devotees on Sankirtan. And then, we had to take Srila Prabhupada down, dress him, put his clothes on and make garlands, go in the kitchen and cook a feast and invite guests to come. It was very difficult, it's very difficult. Krishna has this way of where devotees have to experience dual emotions. It's like simultaneous happiness and distress at the same time. And even some devotees were like fainting and screaming. So much emotion going on. So this day is a very emotional day. But I'll try to get through it, but you'll have to excuse me if I can't. But I wanted to share some of the events on that day. This is a diary of one of my godbrothers who was there in Vrindavan at the time when Srila Prabhupada was having his final pastimes. His name was Tamal Krishna Goswami. And it goes by days. Before I get to 2 days before his passing, I would also like to share This was June 28th. It says, when Srila Prabhupada got up this morning, he said he felt the sadhu's medicine was effective, and he asked us to obtain more. Nowadays, Srila Prabhupada is becoming more talkative. This morning, sitting in his room upstairs, where he now translates since the advent of the monsoon, he talked at length about Varnashram Dharma and the position of women. Later in the morning, now downstairs, Prabhupada reflected on the difference between his books and others. The scholars want to show how much their unimaginative powers can move, but my books are realistic and practical. Prabhupada described how the Marwaris knew the art of living. They can live with their whole family in one room, and another room as storage. And for eating, Darwar system, what is that? Mm-hmm. You know, the Darwar system. And they work very hard. When they get enough money, they buy their own house and live a little luxuriously. They know how to be happy in family life. The women will never work, and whatever they purchase must have value. The woman's mentality is that she wants to be taken nice care of by her husband. She doesn't mind her husband may have other wives. I don't know if all women feel like that. Rajabhakti, what do you think? Because a man's nature is he won't be satisfied unless he can enjoy many women. Naveen, is that true? It says that a woman doesn't mind her husband to have many wives. I asked Rajabhakti, was that true? She said no. And then it says, because a man's nature is he won't be satisfied unless he can enjoy many women. So I said, is that true? You're a man. I'm asking you, are you satisfied with one wife? Sorry to put you on the spot. It says she must be chaste, and because she dedicates everything, I can say that for sure about Vajrayana, he must satisfy her. Just like Krishna went all the way to the heavenly planets to get Satyabhama, the Parijata flower, there is nothing wrong with polygamy. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. Darwin's theory is mad. He says survival of the fittest, but who is fit? Everything will be finished. It is all theories, not practical. The destination of the two civilizations. They want to increase the bad qualities, but we want to decrease the demands. I'm getting to a point here. When we make our planetarium, they will see how frog-like they are. You see it happening? How they can measure such a huge distance as universe. They are simply speculating. In the evening, I read Ganesham's latest report from Yugoslavia. Everyone who know who Ganesham is? It's His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He later became Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Apparently, the people there had never before seen a black man. Prabhupada was very appreciative. In spite of all obstacles Srimad Bhagavatam is going through, these are wonderful things. At first, people take it as if something wrong, but in the end, they order both standing orders. How much he is subjected to. He cannot speak the language, the tough subject, still Srimad Bhagavatam is still going strong. One communist professor felt that all intellectuals and scholars should read Srila Prabhupada's books. After hearing this, Srila Prabhupada declared, if any person who is supposed to be an intellectual or scholar does not read my books, his learning is imperfect. Our books are not for philosophical speculation, but for practical solution of problems. Philosophy classes are now being closed. Philosophy professors are starving. Show this to Dr. O.B.L. Kapoor. No students are interested in philosophy. Rather, they take courses in technology. That is why they like our books. They are practical. Prabhupada could understand that his books were now accepted worldwide as universal truth. The communists had readily accepted his books. Srila Prabhupada got into his palanquin to be carried upstairs when suddenly he began laughing. We asked, Srila Prabhupada, what is so funny? He said, come upstairs and I will tell you. Upstairs on his balcony, Srila Prabhupada sat down on his bed and explained. One friend is asking another friend, what you are? I am poor. And the other replied, I catch some grasshoppers, then I eat. Nothing fixed up for me. What is next? When I go on nature's call, I ride on horseback. So I am a sannyasi beggar. But when I go to bed, 4 men carry me. Prabhupada further explained, the man is poor. He only has grasshoppers to eat. But for passing stool, he rides a horse. And how can you pass stool riding a horse? Prabhupada heard Hamsaduta Swami's report about preaching in Ceylon and became very encouraged. He now has got the right preaching field to engage his capacity. This is the first attempt of the Sankirtan movement in Ceylon. Hamsaduta gets good credit. The Gaudiya Math never went there. When I went to America, I stopped there, and now I brought Hamsaduta from America. Now, first business is to print books. Whatever money you have, print books. Then attempt building a temple. He has sacrificed very nicely. No attachment for beautiful wife. Krishna will give all blessings. Now I'm sharing this because of the understanding. Now this was in June in 1977. And Srila Prabhupada was ill. And at the time we were doing 24-hour kirtan every day. And, you know, just all the temples around the world were having 24-hour kirtan every day. Devotees would take shifts. So, you know, somebody would take an hour, or, you know, half an hour, 15 minutes. But 24-hour kirtan was going on back in 1977 when Srila Prabhupada was ill. And so I'm going to move forward to November, but it's speaking about the importance of book distribution. And he was very concerned about spreading this movement by distributing his books. So this is, I want to go to November 12th. November 12th, this is 2 days before his passing. Srila Prabhupada was thinking very much of parikrama. This morning, he asked me to call for Lokanath Maharaj. Prabhupada told Lokanath that going on parikrama to all the holy places in India has been one of his long-held desires, which had yet to be fulfilled. He asked Lokanath Swami to discuss me a route. Lokanath had been out in the morning using the bullock cart that was hired last night for parikrama in Vrindavan. The bullock driver would not go to Govardhan, saying the bulls would become exhausted. When Lokanath came in, Srila Prabhupada said, Lokanath, you are coming back? Lokanath Maharaj, yes, we came from doing kirtan in the town, bullock cart filled with Gurukula children and devotees chanting and dancing. It was very ecstatic. So many people heard the kirtan. Prabhupada, and prasadam? Lokanath Maharaj, it will be served to the guest after the arti. Srila Prabhupada, you have got all Indian cart? Lokanath Maharaj, yes, I have. Prabhupada, tomorrow consult with him. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Make up a tour. Very good. Srila Prabhupada, since a long time I have got this idea. Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Prabhupada had this ambition a long time. Jayapataka Maharaj. Balaram went to all the holy places, so in the same way you can get a little strength from Krishna and Balaram. Srila Prabhupada, I give you idea. Where's Lokanath? What is called front party? They'll give us description of the land, and before our going, they'll make a camp. Small, big, it doesn't matter. And in the morning, the forward camp broken and go to meet camp with kirtan. In the meantime, other camp is ready to receive you. Then the next camp, after taking prasadam, they'll go to the next camp. Lokanath Maharaj. So the smaller groups go in advance and the bigger group stays with you? Srila Prabhupada, yes, in this way. Lokanath Maharaj. This kind of program we have done before. Srila Prabhupada. And when you go in procession, have kirtan? Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Originally, we talked about this. We want to go in a few vehicles, not bullock cart. Bhakti Chaitanya Swami is the fit driver for your vehicle, Srila Prabhupada. I know he would want to come. Is that all right? Srila Prabhupada. Oh, yes. Purchase at least 4 vehicles. Tamal Krishna Maharaj. I think some scientists must also come in case we meet someone very intellect to defeat them. Swarup Damodar can come. Srila Prabhupada. Oh, yes. Giriraj. You'll need someone to make members in case we meet any rich people. Everyone laughed. Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Giriraj is requesting to come. Is that all right? Srila Prabhupada. By managing, you can come, everyone. Lokanath Maharaj. So do I come with you, Srila Prabhupada? Srila Prabhupada. You will be the leader. Lokanath Maharaj. I have a party and they can go do Nagara, Sankirtan, and distribute books. Tamal Krishna Maharaj. But one thing we request you is to get a little stronger. We're going. We should not turn back. When going, we should not turn back. The rest of the day passed with Srila Prabhupada taking rest most of the time, and devotees always performing kirtan. In the evening, Prabhupada talked a long time with Swarup Damodar. Around 11:30 p.m., he complained of pain in his left thigh and the same leg which he had us keep elevated on a pillow for so many weeks now. Prabhupada took 900 cc's of liquid, including 550 cc's of milk, and passed 560 cc's of urine, but no stool. November 13th. At 1:30 a.m., Srila Prabhupada had severe pain in his left leg. After some time, it subsided, but it resumed at 3:00 a.m. With our help, Srila Prabhupada was moving himself from one side to another. Wanting us to apply the heat to his thigh, he asked for a coal stove on which to heat salt compresses. In the meantime, he asked for Dr. Day's or Sloan's liniment. We found Slow's and I rubbed it on, but this did not bring sufficient relief. Prabhupada was moaning from the pain. Devotees had stopped kirtan and were surrounding his bed. The Kaviraj was also present. It was concluded that rubbing witch hazel had produced too much coldness. Prabhupada said, Upendra wants to give cold to get rid of cold, as the liniment is not effective. I applied a heating lamp, moving it back and forth along Prabhupada's thigh. This action brought relief, and Prabhupada became calmer. Before the lamp, we had also used hot water bottles. Now a hot plate had been located on which Upendra heated 2 salt poultices and alternatively applied them to Prabhupada's leg. Gradually, the pain subsided and Srila Prabhupada could rest again. During the pain, Prabhupada had thrown off his blankets. We were all praying that his painful attack would not again assault our spiritual master. But again and again it came at 6:00 to 9, noon, and 3 p.m. I was very sorry to see this trauma because it did not bode well. Srila Prabhupada was most sensitive and we were worried that if these painful attacks continued, we would not be willing to remain with us any longer. Ironically, at the same time, Srila Prabhupada had drunk 1,150 cc's, half of it as milk, and passed 550 cc's of urine and stool. In the evening, we had planned previously. Ban Maharaj and Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj visited. Prabhupada asked me to bring the Russian diploma given to the BBT at the Moscow Book Fair. Then I showed various photographs of deities in temples around the world, just as Prabhupada would, whenever important persons would come. Ban Maharaj was very much praising Prabhupada's work and afterwards said how wonderful it is that Srila Prabhupada was in such perfect consciousness. Prabhupada also discussed with Ban Maharaj his desire for Tirtha Yatra. Srila Prabhupada also spoke with Bhagaji and at the end quoted from Bhagavad Gita. November 14th. Today, the attacks continued in regular 3-hour intervals. Prabhupada was in deep consciousness, not external. The Kaviraj came frequently, but Prabhupada took medicine only with great efforts on behalf of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. When the attacks came again, Srila Prabhupada moved his right arm back and forth, gracefully in the air, but we could not properly understand him. Although we all wanted to help him, we felt we could not. The Kaviraj confirmed that Prabhupada's condition was very serious. No entry was made in the medical journal because Srila Prabhupada had not passed any urine, although there must have been urine in the body. We could all understand the end was approaching. Thus, the room was packed with devotees, and chanting was continuous. The Kaviraj suggested inserting a catheter to empty his bladder of urine. The GBC members present, Hamsaduta Maharaj, Swarup Damodar, Jagadish, Bhavananda Maharaj, and I, deliberated and decided that we would not permit catheterization, since Srila Prabhupada had not appreciated Tirtha Maharaj's expiring with tubes in his body. Besides, catheterization would have prolonged his presence only a short while, and we could now sense that our beloved Srila Prabhupada wished to return back to Godhead, back to home. We tried everything, and it failed. Thus, we informed the Kaviraj of our decision, and he agreed and understood, being himself a devotee. By now, we had all returned to Prabhupada's room, surrounding him and sitting on his bed. Upendra, Swarup Damodar, Satya Danya Maharaj, Bhavananda Maharaj, Hamsaduta Maharaj, and I, with other devotees, both men and women present. Pishima came in and asked Prabhupada, "Have you eaten something?" Srila Prabhupada did not respond, even though she asked again and again. She placed Ganges water in Prabhupada's mouth. We had placed Tulsi leaves and Yamuna water by Prabhupada's head. Prabhupada's godbrothers arrived. I had set up benches on each side of the bed for them. Ban Maharaj, Krishnadas, Babaji, Ananda Prabhu, and his god-nephew Narayan Maharaj. They sat and watched, intently observing Srila Prabhupada's consciousness. Narayan Maharaj spoke in Srila Prabhupada's ear, but there was no response. But when Bhakti Charu Maharaj spoke into Prabhupada's ear, telling him that Narayan Maharaj and others were present, Prabhupada slowly raised his left hand to his head in salutation and started crying. Prabhupada's godbrothers explained that Prabhupada's attacks were simply the moving of the and 2 or 3 hours they left, promising to come immediately we called. The Kaviraj, however, said Prabhupada only had 2 or 3 hours left. Already we had informed ISKCON garments from Krishna Balaram and placed them on the pillow around Prabhupada's head. Understanding that the end was near, we chanted and prayed, there being nothing else to do. When the last attack came at 3:00 p.m., Prabhupada rubbed his hand quickly back and forth across his heart. Upendra also massaged his heart while I sat holding his lotus feet. For 4 hours, Prabhupada was very peaceful. At 7:25 p.m., Srila Prabhupada opened his eyes, which were very clear, more than in many months. His mouth opened, his tongue moved, and then he became still. The Kaviraj took Prabhupada's pulse and held a cotton swab to his nostril, dictating no movement of air. Our beloved Srila Prabhupada had departed, surrounded by his loving disciples who were chanting the holy name of Krishna. Lying very peaceful in his bed in Vrindavan Dham, the holy land of Krishna's birth, his head directed toward the deities of Krishna Balaram, surrounded by photos of all the deities and his Guru Maharaj, decorated with chandan and big tulsi leaf on his forehead and holding tulsi in his right hand. He departed and returned to the lotus feet of Krishna, from whence he came. Oh, how the world has become devoid of this crest jewel, Srila Prabhupada. Oh, how everything is now vacant. The world filled with wailing and crying devotees clutched Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet when Pishima approached, crying piteously. We asked most of the devotees to leave while the chanting continued around the bed. Ban Maharaj returned and advised that we take Prabhupada's body on parikrama of Vrindavan to the 7 major temples. Ananda Prabhu had been there all the time. Narayan Maharaj arrived. We sat Srila Prabhupada up and crossed his legs, afraid that his body would stiffen. Bhavananda Maharaj closed his jaw, which had remained open, and we tied it closed with a cloth around his head. We placed Srila Prabhupada in his palanquin and carried him into the temple with the blowing of conch shells and beating of mridangas and kartals. First taking him before each deity and then circumambulating the temple 3 times, we brought him again before the altar of his lords, Krishna and Balaram. We circumambulated his transcendental body 4 times with kirtan, afterwards placing his whole palanquin on the Vyasasan. Led by Narayan Maharaj, Krishnadas Babaji, and Ananda Prabhu, we performed kirtan and prayers throughout the whole night. Prabhupada's expression was sublime, just as when he had previously sat on the Vyasasan. His eyes were closed. There was a slight smile on his face, and we all expected and prayed that at any moment he would lift his hand and return to us. The day was Gora Chaturthi Tithi, the 4th day of the light half of the month of Kartik. The time was 7:25 p.m., 5 minutes after the most auspicious time of that day. Amrita Yoga began. I'm going to end right there. I see that my dear God brother Yadavacharya has arrived, and so I'm going to pass the mic. What'd you say? We're not going to fight today.
No, I said I figured out how to do this stuff.
Oh, being late? Mm-hmm. It might not look possible. On the 15th.
Right there. Oh. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, you can hear me? The residents of Vrindavan awaited the last darshan of the great Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who who has spread Vrindavan's glories to the darkest regions of the world. At 6:30 a.m., the Goswamis of the 7 temples arrived to escort the divine form of Srila Prabhupada to their respective deities. Prabhupada had his hat and chadar on, and he sat in his palanquin. He would not circumambulate lying down. Like a strong lion, he sat up, and when the residents of Vrindavan saw him, they were amazed. He was covered with flowers offered the previous night by his disciples. Taking him into the courtyard of the accompaniment of kirtan, led by Narayan Maharaj, he circumambulated his body 4 times and began our procession with grand kirtan. The Brijvasis, happy to see his perfection, chanted Jai Prabhupada. Everyone knew him as Vrindavan's most famous son, and they loved him. That's the one comment. Many of the Goswamis, they said that many gurus would come and they would bring their disciples. They would build temples. And then after the spiritual master left, then everything would begin to fall apart. They said they've seen this many times. But they commented that since Srila Prabhupada established the Krishna Balaram Mandir, actually everything in Vrindavan has become even more wonderful. He set the standard for the deity worship, which even today is recognized all throughout the Holy Dham. And because of that, the other temples had to step up their deity worship. I remember when I was there in 72, many of the temples were at minimal. Some of them, most of them, were minimal. But the majority of the temples had been in, because you didn't have a lot of people coming all the time. Vrindavan was just a passing thought to most devotees, even Vaishnavas. So as a consequence, Srila Prabhupada having been a pure devotee, they said, now we understand that he was a pure devotee. That what he did is become not only maintained, but it is actually growing the whole of Vrindavan. As we approached each temple, the head pujari came out. The kirtan rose to a crescendo, with Narayan Maharaj chanting, Jai Madan Mohan Jiva, Jai Radha Damodar Jiva, Jai Radha Raman Jiva, glorifying the particular deity and Prabhupada, who represented them so well. Then Narayan Maharaj chanted, Jai Prabhupada. We were all merged in the ocean of grief, yet proud to be the disciples of our Guru Maharaj. The parikram lasted 3 hours, ending when we again arrived at the Krishna Balaram Mandir at 9:30 a.m. We brought Srila Prabhupada's divine body to the Samadhi site. Upendra and Bhavananda Maharaj undressed Srila Prabhupada. That's honestly, when I'm reading this, you have to know, I knew these devotees. I just can't imagine how they were able to do that. This is sometimes when you hear that someone has passed away, the grief is so strong, you become stunned. And sometimes you just literally pass out because you can't appreciate the depth of the passing, and the loss is so strong. And I knew Bhavananda very well, and I knew Upendra. And I can't imagine that they actually had to take and begin to clean and undress Srila Prabhupada's body. You did this on purpose, didn't you? That's what I thought. leaving only his kupana and placed him on banana leaves. First Narayan Maharaj, then Krishnadas Babaji, and then Ananda Prabhu poured Jamuna water over Prabhupada's transcendental body. I took the conch shell next, and allowing all the devotees to touch it, poured water over his body many times. We dressed him in new silks and new sacred thread. Narayan Maharaj took a Tulsi Manjari and with Chandana wrote the Samadhi mantra on Srila Prabhupada's chest. Narayan Maharaj, Ananda Prabhu, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and I descended 7 to 9 feet into the Samadhi pit, at the bottom of which was pure white marble slab. We performed pujas. Ananda Prabhu chanting the mantras while guiding the movements of his hands. Bhavananda Maharaj and Upendra lifted Prabhupada's transcendental form, and I received Prabhupada's body for the last time. We placed him in a sitting position and offered arti. All the devotees who were standing about, chanting and blowing on the conch shells, threw thousands of flowers upon Prabhupada, as Prabhupada had previously instructed me. I saved a few to be taken to Mayapur for another samadhi. So Prabhupada he always knew what to do. He had the understanding of foresight of what was going to happen next. Even at his beginning of his passing, he knew to prepare the devotees to be able to do certain things. I think I got something in my eye. I think I got something. We poured salt 9 inches deep around Srila Prabhupada's body, then filled the rest of the samadhi with dirt. We marked where his head was, and after reaching the ground level, we built up an area about 3 feet square, making the place where his body was seated. Marking the place where his body was seated. We covered the area with fresh cow dung and placed fresh saffron silk on top. For shade, we suspended from 4 bamboo poles another saffron cloth. We placed 2 tulsi plants on each side, and on the raised ground, the photo of our beloved Guru Maharaj. Pradumya offered prasadam and full arti, and we circumambulated 4 times. In complete surrender, we took the shelter of Prabhupada's lotus feet. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachani Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Prasajada Satarni. That's just one comment. Whenever you come and say your obeisances, you should say them out loud. Prabhupada said that we should say our obeisances out loud so that you can hear it and that others are hearing and he can hear you. One of Srila Prabhupada's last yearning desires was to go on parikram around Govardhan Hill. Because we wanted to fulfill that desire and because we were feeling separation from our beloved Guru Maharaj, we decided to take him to Govardhan. We selected the date of Gopastami, when Krishna comes of age as a cowherd boy on November 18th. On that morning, after Mongol Arti, all the devotees took prasadam of puri, halava, and sabji. In buses and vans, we then set out with Srila Prabhupada present in his Archa Vigraha form and in a large photograph. We placed the deity of Srila Prabhupada in the back seat of his car between Upendra and myself. In the front were Bhavananda Swami, Achyutananda Swami, and our devotee driver. We went first to Radhakund because Srila Prabhupada had said, when he was unable to go, you bathe on my behalf. Now he bathed personally to our great happiness. This fly is reminding me of a time when Srila Prabhupada was lecturing in Vrindavan at the Jiva Goswami Samadhi, and there was a fly, and this one devotee, he evidently didn't know what he was doing. He was just like this. Prabhupada looked up. He says, "What is wrong? Why you cannot do this properly?" And so therefore, other devotees had a chance to come up to use the chamra to chase away the flies. Next, Jaivataka Swami carried Prabhupada upon his head and bathed him there 3 times in Shamkund. He was dried and dressed in a new silk cloth placed upon his palanquin and offered full arti. The devotees chanting Jai Srila Prabhupada, accompanied by kirtan, were circumambulated. We circumambulated those 2 most holy lakes. We boarded our vehicles and proceeded to Govardhan, where we assembled and in procession proceeded with Srila Prabhupada aboard his palanquin, which had been wonderfully decorated. How beautiful the land of Govardhan is, with its trees and grasses. Prabhupada has ascended to Goloka, and now by his causeless mercy, we felt as if we too had been allowed to enter that transcendental realm. As we circumambulated the mountain, no longer did our hearts burn from separation. We were with Prabhupada again. We were so glad to see him riding again on his palanquin, leading us as always, giving us shelter. It was a cool day, and our walking created dust. The whole atmosphere became filled with dust. We could only remember Krishna coming home from tending the cows. We came to Govardhan Kund, where Mahavendra Puri had found Gopal and Indra had given Abhishek to Krishna. There we stopped and heard the nectar of instruction, verses 9 to 11. Some of the sacred water of the Kund was sprinkled on Prabhupada's head, and he was cooled and refreshed. As we proceeded, our talks were all about Prabhupada. We remembered his pastimes and recounted his unlimited glories. We especially remembered the past 2 weeks, which had been so sweet. We took pleasure understanding how the past months were given by Prabhupada for deepening our love and for no other purpose. We simply lay on his bed week after week with no other purpose than to attract us. How merciful he acted towards us. As we wound around the hill, the path was uneven, and we reflected that Srila Prabhupada could have made this journey only in his present eternal form. Though we walked for 3 hours, the 8 miles passed easily. We again rode to Kusuma Kunj, where we refreshed ourselves in the bathing ghat. Prabhupada, having been placed high in covered garden house. All the devotees took pleasure sporting in the water. We divided into two groups, Satsarup Maharaj speaking in one and Achyutananda Maharaj in another, recounting the glorious activities of Prabhupada in the early days in New York. At 5:30 p.m., we all sat down and enjoyed a most transcendental feast, eating to our full satisfaction. We proceeded back to Vrindavan, back to home, with Srila Prabhupada, wary as we rode in our car. It had been present. Srila Prabhupada lives with those who live to fulfill his desires. We take shelter beneath the lotus feet of our beloved Guru Maharaj, whom we eternally serve. Jai. Jai. Very nice. So, this is the secret. This is the secret. I was just reading. Prabhupada said that the presence of the spiritual master is just as good as his disappearance. It's actually not disappearance. He says no one ever disappears. But because he is no longer present, actually his not being present physically has given a greater meaning to everything that he has said and done. I remember as devotees, most of you have no idea. You have no idea what was going on half the time. Prabhupada was constantly struggling to rein in the crazies, the devotees whom, quote unquote, were supposed to be so big devotees. But some of them, many of them, even the ones who were the closest, we're always reactionary because that is the way that we're raised. We're reactionary. Americans, particularly, we always react. Then all of a sudden, they want to become guru. They want to become boss. Some of them went away and started their own little groups. But the thing is this: as much as whatever Prabhupada had to do, he kept doing what was necessary. And he knew that after his passing, the only thing that was going to keep everyone in check was his books. Because the instructions in the books are absolute. And when you start changing and divvying up the instructions out of the books, that's when chaos becomes prevalent. It happens in almost every religion. And it will happen in this religion as well. And there's parts of that, so it's already happening. So you have to understand that if you want to know everything perfectly as Prabhupada wanted it to be understood, then you have to preserve the books as they are, as they were originally intended. Otherwise, just a little deviation, and Prabhupada always mentioned, this is a little deviation. If one is not careful, it's just like with shaving. He said that many times. It's just like shaving. If you're not careful, you have blood. And this is exactly how this whole process is, especially now that Maya has her potency, and she knows what she's done this before. You see, we've never gone through this. We are so young. We're just like little children. Maya has done this many times throughout the ages. How many millions of lifetimes? I mean, many organizations, groups, thousands and thousands and thousands that she has been able to divert, just like with Christianity. There's so many changes that took place immediately after Jesus left, immediately. And even still today, it's in disarray. So the point is this: there's instructions, the knowledge is there, follow the instructions. His instructions were non-different from Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada and non-different from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and which was very simple: to spread this knowledge throughout the world. Broadcast. He actually said broadcast. Everybody's saying this is what's going to happen. Prabhupada, I heard him say broadcast. Now we have this broadcast. everyone is actually hearing Krishna consciousness on YouTube, through different media, prabhupadvani.com. So again, getting back to this disappearance time, it was so wonderful. Many of the devotees, again, I can't imagine how they were able to do all of this, but that was Prabhupada's mercy to help us to learn to do things all the time. So I'll end there. And thank you all very much for your service. I love you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. So you only have 7 minutes left. Sorry, 2 minutes. So 12:30 is going to be pushpanjali, followed by Guru Puja, and followed by kirtan, followed by Nashing prayer and prasad. So I was told that there's a couple of devotees are getting books today. So the request is that one set by Mataji, one set Prabhu. If the family can come forward, Rakesh Prabhu and his family. They're coming recently to the community. They're doing wonderful services. So as a token of appreciation. So wonderful way to receive the mercy and Prabhupada.
God. Thank you, Haribo. Both.
So we have a lot of these Lilamrita sets and in our ISKCON warehouse. So today is a good day if you want to get this Lilamrita set. It's only $50, but you will get to know Prabhupada much better. His struggle, his determination, how he overcome all this struggle. So I can give it to you if you on behalf of our temple. But if anybody doesn't have a Lilamrita.
Yeah. So there were some groups at one point that were reading Lilamrita together. So if you don't have it, there's still one going on. Yeah. So it's always better to learn the author of, founder of this movement, Srila Prabhupada. It's a profound experience. Many people I come across, including myself, reading Lilamrita is more profound because we can see the personality in Bhagavatam in our contemporary time, so we can get to know. Program here, and then we will get up and then put the mats aside, and then we're going to start pushpanjali. So pushpanjali, we're going to distribute the pushpanjali, that means flowers. Please hold on till the whole players are done. Then after that, they come forward and we offer the flower petals in Prabhupada. Yeah, please do not throw the flowers on his face. Come close, put on his lotus feet if we can. Yeah. Thank you.
Did you make it?
Prem Sindhu Prabhu, the legend.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, I like
YouTube.
You can speak and hear.
Hare Krishna. Everyone got the flower petals. So we are going to recite Pushpanjali prayers. Please repeat after me, and at the end of the prayers, I will say Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times. And after reciting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times, Then when I say Yasha pushpanjali, that's when please offer the flowers. Basically, we are going to offer flower petals 3 times, so don't offer everything at one shot. So, okay, so keep the flower petals till the end. So we are going to offer the flower petals 3 times. Please repeat after. Om Jnana Viryandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Vayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Vadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vachakya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Dayitaya Upaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryojvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Divyatarine Rupanuga Viruddhapasiddhanta Swantaharine Namo Gaurakishoraya Sakshat Vairagyamurtaye Vipralamba Sambodhe Padambujaya Te Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodhaya Satchidanandanamine Gaurashakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaurarirvavo Bhumes Svam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpa Karubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Maha Padanyaya Krishna प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तिशक्तिकं हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते जयतां सुरतौ अंगुर मम मंदगतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्व पदाम्बुजौ राधा मदनमोहनौ दिव्यत् इंद्रारण्य कल्पा द्रुमादु श्रीमत् रत्नाकर आसनस्थौ श्रीमत् राधा श्रील गोविंद देवौ श्रेष्ठालिभिः सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि श्रीमान रासरसारंभी वंशीवटा तटस्थितः पश्यन् वेणु स्वैने गोपीनाथ प्रियेस्तु नमः तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये हे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे येष पुष्पांजलि प्लीज ऑफर द फ्लावर्स श्रीला प्रभुपाद की
Please don't throw. Come close. Offer it.
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे यश पुष्पांजलि जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Kesha pushpanjali. Patita Pavana Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki.
So done. If you can go back and other devotees can come forward.
So now we are going to do Guru Puja.
Karayana Guna Navasya Srila Prabhupada ki! Srila Prabhupada ki! Namo Vishnu Padaya Namaskaya O Bhagavad Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada. Jagaguru Prabhupada, Jagaguru Prabhupada, Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada, Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada, Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada, Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamanta ki Hare Krishna Mahamanta ki Hare Krishna Mahamanta ki
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परविचार्य अष्टोत्तर दक्षिण शिला प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की रामाचार्य शिला हृदय ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत राज गौर